The concept of life being a simulation has intrigued many, especially with the increasing complexity of computer simulations and artificial intelligence. When examining the fabric of reality, some historical coincidences seem so improbable that they fuel the argument for a simulated universe. Here are the top 10 weird coincidences in history that might make you question the nature of our existence. 1. The sinking of the Titan and the Titanic. In 1898, Morgan Robertson wrote a novella titled Futility, or The Wreck of the Titan. The story revolved around a fictional ocean liner named Titan that was described as the largest and most luxurious ship ever built. This unsinkable ship hit an iceberg during its maiden voyage in the North Atlantic, leading to a catastrophic loss of life due to an insufficient number of lifeboats. 14 years later, in 1912, the RMS Titanic, the largest and most luxurious ship at the time, sank after hitting an iceberg in the North Atlantic under eerily similar circumstances. The parallel between the fictional Titan and the real-life Titanic has led many to wonder if such a precise prediction could simply be a coincidence. 2. The Lincoln-Kennedy connection. The assassination of President Abraham Lincoln in 1865 and President John F. Kennedy in 1963 share a series of uncanny similarities. Both presidents were elected to Congress in 1846, Lincoln in 1846 and Kennedy in 1946, and later elected as president in 1860, Lincoln in 1860 and Kennedy in 1960. Both were succeeded by vice presidents named Johnson, Andrew Johnson for Lincoln and Lyndon B. Johnson for Kennedy, who were born in 1808 and 1908, respectively. Lincoln was shot in Ford's Theater, while Kennedy was shot in a Lincoln made by Ford. Both assassins, John Wilkes Booth and Lee Harvey Oswald, were known by 3 names, composed of 15 letters, and were killed before being brought to trial. The similarities extend to the names of secretaries and the days of the week on which they were shot. These coincidences are so precise that they seem to suggest a scripted pattern. 3. Mark Twain's comet. Mark Twain, born Samuel Langhorne Clemens, was born on November 30, 1835, exactly 2 weeks after Halley's Comet made one of its closest approaches to Earth. In 1909, Twain famously predicted, "I came in with Halley's Comet in 1835. It is coming again next year, and I expect to go out with it." True to his word, Twain died of a heart attack on April 21, 1910, the day after Halley's Comet returned. The precise timing of Twain's birth and death in relation to the comet's appearance has been considered more than a coincidence by many, suggesting some cosmic plan or simulation code. 4. The parallel lives of Thomas Jefferson and John Adams. Thomas Jefferson and John Adams, 2 of the most influential founding fathers of the United States, had a remarkably intertwined fate. Both served as president, and both were heavily involved in the drafting of the Declaration of Independence. Their relationship saw them as both friends and rivals. In a strange twist of fate, both men died on the same day, July 4, 1826, the 50th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. Adams' last words reportedly included a mention of Jefferson, unaware that Jefferson had died just hours earlier. This synchronicity suggests a scripted exit from the stage of history for these pivotal figures. 5. The Civil War twins. Wilmer McLean's life is often cited as a bizarre example of historical coincidence. The first major battle of the American Civil War, the First Battle of Bull Run, took place on McLean's farm in Manassas, Virginia. Seeking to escape the war, McLean moved to Appomattox Courthouse, where, 4 years later, the Civil War effectively ended with General Robert E. Lee's surrender to General Ulysses S. Grant. The surrender took place in McLean's parlor. McLean's statement, "The war began in my front yard and ended in my front parlor," captures the eerie full-circle nature of his experience, almost as if he was a character in a pre-written story. 6. The Curse of the Tamerlane's Tomb. In 1941, Soviet archaeologists opened the tomb of Tamerlane, Timur, a Turco-Mongol conqueror, despite warnings that disturbing the grave would unleash a terrible curse. An inscription reportedly read, "Whoever opens my tomb shall unleash an invader more terrible than I." 2 days later, Nazi Germany launched Operation Barbarossa, the largest invasion in the history of warfare, against the Soviet Union. The devastating invasion caused immense destruction and loss of life. The timing of the tomb's opening and the invasion is strikingly coincidental, leading some to believe in the power of ancient curses or a pre-programmed narrative within a simulation. 7. The reincarnation of the Titanic's nurse. Violet Jessop, known as Miss Unsinkable, was a stewardess and nurse who survived the sinkings of the RMS Titanic in 1912 and its sister ship, the HMHS Britannic, in 1916. She was also on board the RMS Olympic when it collided with a warship in 1911. Jessup's survival through 3 major maritime disasters defies the odds and has led to speculation about fate, destiny, or a glitch in the simulation that allowed her to survive these catastrophes. 8. The mysterious case of the green children of Woolpit. In the 12th century, 2 children with green skin reportedly appeared in the village of Woolpit in England. They spoke an unknown language and initially refused to eat anything other than beans. Over time, they learned English and their skin lost its green hue. The boy died, but the girl lived on and integrated into society. They claim to have come from a place called St. Martin's Land, which was shrouded in perpetual twilight. The mysterious origin and appearance of these children have puzzled historians and folklorists for centuries, leading some to consider the possibility of interdimensional travel or anomalies within a simulated reality. 9. Edgar Allan Poe's eerie prediction. In 1838, Edgar Allan Poe published The Narrative of Arthur Gordon Pym of Nantucket, a novel that included a scene where shipwrecked survivors drew lots to decide who would be eaten to stave off starvation. The character who loses, Richard Parker, is sacrificed. 46 years later, in 1884, a real shipwreck led to a similar situation. The survivors of the ship Mignonette were adrift and, after many days, decided to sacrifice and eat the cabin boy to survive. The cabin boy's name was Richard Parker. The specific matching details between Poe's fiction and the later real-life event are so precise that they challenge our understanding of coincidence. 10. The enigmatic case of the doppelgangers. Throughout history, there have been numerous reports of doppelgangers, or individuals who have identical counterparts in different locations or times. One of the most famous cases involves French writer Guy de Maupassant. Maupassant claimed to have met his own doppelganger, who purportedly sat down and started dictating a story to him, which Maupassant later wrote down. This phenomenon has been reported by various other historical figures, including Queen Elizabeth I and Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. The existence of doppelgangers raises questions about the nature of individuality and reality, suggesting a possible glitch in the matrix of our simulated universe. These historical coincidences, whether seen as eerie or purely random, push the boundaries of our understanding of reality. They provoke thoughts about destiny, the nature of time, and the possibility of life being governed by some form of higher-order programming. Whether you interpret these events as evidence of a simulated universe or merely the quirks of a chaotic reality, they certainly add a layer of mystery to our perception of history and existence. The concept of life being a simulation has intrigued many, especially with the increasing complexity of computer simulations and artificial intelligence. The concept of life being a simulation has intrigued many, especially with the increasing complexity of computer simulations and artificial intelligence. When examining the fabric of reality, the concept of life being a simulation has intrigued many, especially with the increasing complexity of computer simulations and artificial intelligence. The concept of life being a simulation has intrigued many, especially with the increasing complexity of computer simulations and artificial intelligence. The concept of life being a simulation has intrigued many, especially with the increasing complexity of computer simulations and artificial intelligence. The concept of life being a simulation has intrigued many, especially with the increasing complexity of computer simulations and artificial intelligence. The concept of life being a simulation has intrigued many, especially with the increasing complexity of computer simulations and artificial intelligence. The concept of life being a simulation has intrigued many, especially with the increasing complexity of computer simulations and artificial intelligence. The concept of life being a simulation has intrigued many, especially with the increasing complexity of computer simulations and artificial intelligence. The concept of life being a simulation has intrigued many, especially with the increasing complexity of computer simulations and artificial intelligence. The concept of life being a simulation has intrigued many, especially with the increasing complexity of computer simulations and artificial intelligence. The concept of life being a simulation has intrigued many, especially with the increasing complexity of computer simulations and artificial intelligence. The concept of life being a simulation has intrigued many, especially with the increasing complexity of computer simulations and artificial intelligence. The concept of life being a simulation has intrigued many, especially with the increasing complexity of computer simulations and artificial intelligence. The concept of life being a simulation has intrigued many, especially with the increasing complexity of computer simulations and artificial intelligence. The concept of life being a simulation has intrigued many, especially with the increasing complexity of computer simulations and artificial intelligence. When examining the fabric of reality,